Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. A little bit of Hill Farmstead up in this piece in the form of their Flora Cherry. This be a Farmstead wheat ale aged in oak barrels with cherries. Over here on the story time, we have Flora is the wine barrel aged version of Florence, Edward's sister, as well as the name of our wheat Farmstead ale. Each blend of her namesake beer rests in oak for undetermined period for many months to several years and embodies our progressive vision of Hill Farmstead, pursuit guided by natural intuition involving experience and optimistic forecast. On occasion, we select a portion of Flora and age it on a blend of local cherry varieties as a means of highlighting the sympathetic natures of beer in barrel and fruit and season. We have here varieties of Blanton, Juliet, North Star, Carmine Jewel, and Scandinavian cherries. Brutt's Orchard in Cabot, Vermont. Bottle conditioning, so it's been in a bottle since 2021. Brewed and bottled Hill Farmstead. I think we're done and done. 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Probably actually spot on with that. They give me an ABV on this. I don't think they do. Well, guess. Proper glassware. So, yeah, this came via the box that I got from... Ooh, big pop on that. Nice. Again, always got to say it. Best corks, or caps, sorry, in the biz. I love these goddamn caps. Yeah, box I got from Hill Farmstead that I purchased pre-Thanksgiving maybe or something like that. They shipped to PA, so I'm right next to PA, so I can get their stuff. A little Dirty Glass Mafia for you all out there. Give it a whirl. Give it a little taparooski to make it look like I'm not a horrible glass washer person. It's very hard out here in the old shed to especially this glass. Like I only use the Hill Farmstead glasses pretty much when I drink a Hill Farmstead. And it's been a while. It's been a month or so. So it's been in my case there. I gave it a wash before they started the video. But anyway, yeah. Guess what? That looks like it has cherries in it. Oh, label-wise, I mean, it's Hill Farmstead. It's what they do. I dig on it. You know, I don't know if the labels are great or it's because Hill Farmstead, so I like the labels. But I think it's a little combination of the two. As far as that beer goes, that looks like it has cherries in it. It has that rich kind of cherry brightness, organic, clear, very, very clear, soft, snow globy carbonation. The only kind of carbonation I'm getting is actually from, I believe there's a tiny itty-bitty agitator in this glass, but it has that bright, reddish, rich reddish, cherry-like kind of color to it. It almost has like a Nestle Nesquik kind of colored head to it, if you can kind of glean on that thing. So it definitely looks to all the parts of the cherry. Let's see if we get a nose. Yeah, it really does smell like, for me, rather than like a fresh, like cherry. Even though it has that going on for it, it's a little bit more cherry juice. I shouldn't say that. Like canned or jarred, I should say more specifically, kind of cherry to it, and that it's kind of, you know, that kind of makes sense, seeing that it's bottle conditioned, it's fermented, it's been sitting for a while. It has this kind of, like, if you've ever had like a real cherry Coke at like an old school joint, and they basically take classic Coke and then they'll take their maraschino cherry jar and they'll pour some of that cherry juice into that Coca-Cola. It has that kind of vibe going for it. Not calling it synthetic, not calling it so light or sweet. It's more that maraschino or slash varietal cherry juice, kind of steeped, soaked, rich kind of cherry that has gone beyond just the straight cherryness to it. And that's obviously the prominent portion of the show here, is that cherry. The beer is obvious. It's definitely here. It has that acidic funkiness that I, more often than not, when I have Hill Farmstead beers, they tend to kind of float in that realm of a natural pH balance. That when you drink them, they tend to be super easy going down because the pH balance is probably in tune with the human body pH balance. This comes off a little bit more acidic. It's not like Cascade or anything like that, but it's got a little bit more acidity to it. Is that fruit? Is it that fermentation? Is that sitting around for that time? That bottle conditioning brought all that? It could be all those factors at play. But you have this acidic, but not over the top, kind of beer base that has this nice sweet maltiness to it, and then this really earthy kind of almost like it's like they threw the cherries in with the stems and the seeds and the whole nine kind of thing. So it's the skins, the stems, the seeds, this tannic kind of herbaceousness. It's probably a combination of the hops propping that up with just that cherry on top. I mean, that is the big portion of the show here. It's what it's supposed to be, and it's the biggest aromatic, at least, in the beer. So it smells like a big, rich, forward. ABV-wise, I'm guessing this is probably high sixes. Cherry Forward Farmhouse, though. Let's dive in. Cheers, y'all. That's delicious. I'm really blown away by the combination of not a gigantic acidity. It's acidic a bit more than less than I thought it was going to be based off of the nose. But the interesting part here, it's like hyper attenuated, so there's really not much sweetness here, and it finishes bone dry for a couple different reasons. One is that, just absolutely, totally, fully attenuated. I think this beer is probably way less than 6% now. I'm going to have to look it up towards the end, but I'm thinking we're dipping in more around 5. And it's the oak, the amount of, comes off as a really rich isn't the word, really full French oak. It's not a ton of vanilla, but it's just got this rich oakiness to it. When you throw that in combination with the fully attenuated beer and probably a decent amount of the yeast kind of adding to this dryness, it really is almost like mouth sucking, not puckering in an acidity way, but super hyper dryness. That's why I took several sips at the beginning rather than giving you a knee-jerk reaction off of one, because I thought it was going to build and build and build, and it actually does. Very adulty kind of beer. And actually, I should just say it, very adulty, because it's not really all that sweet. And I think a lot of people would want a little bit more sweetness on this. And honestly, the version of this with a little bit more sweetness, I might actually dig too. But there's something about this. It's very, very, very much a food beer for me. And it's kind of, I say that more often than not, with a lot of Hill Farmstead bottles. Yet I never drink them with food, because I'm always reviewing the ones that I get. And it just comes off as just a... It's not cherry wine. It's not. I'm trying to find the best way to kind of talk about it, because it's at its core, it's a farmhouse ale. It's a wheat beer. You have the wheat coming through. It drinks quite nice. It has a super squeaky clean kind of construction to it, but it's the cherry portion of the show that is really taking this to a different level. That for me comes off a bit more like cherry. Again, I said not like cherry wine, but cherry wine or cherry mead without the sweetness. So a couple years ago, pre-pandemic, I ended up interviewing the Shelton Brothers at the Shelton Brothers Fest in Buffalo, New York. I forget the name of the place that was there, but there was somebody there with this cherry-based, it was like almost like a cherry cider, cherry mead kind of thing, but it was not hyper sweet, and it was absolutely delicious. This reminds me very much of that. A decently different beer, much, much less sweet, actually completely less sweet. But there's something about the way the cherries show in here that is a bit more, again, soaked, nurtured, not straight cherry. Not that there's anything wrong with cherries. I love cherry flavored stuff over a straight cherry. But this is almost like, I don't want to associate it with that, but it's almost like the cherry that you get from a Luden's cough drop. It doesn't taste like that. It's not sweet like that. But there's just this kind of cranked, a little bit up kind of vibrance to the way the cherry kind of comes off. It makes me think of something that is not of cherry, but is all cherry. Organically cherry. Like, there's nothing like synthetic about it. It's just a really good cherry. Maybe that's my disconnect. I haven't had these these cherries that are on here. Maybe this is why it's that vibrant, why it's that fantastical. Can we use that word? When it comes to the cherry proportion on the show, maybe that's it. Or maybe it's sitting in, bottles and fermenting in fooders and barrels for several months to years. And then you talk about, 2021. We're in, September 2021. We're in March of 2023. So you're talking about 3.5 years or 2.5 years of time on the sucker. That probably adds a bit of that. What's the word I'm looking for here? Steady-handedness. That's probably the best way I put it. I really do enjoy this, but I enjoy it in a way that's different than beer. I know that's a weird way to put it, and it is a beer through and through. I'm not trying to call it not a beer. It's just how omnipresent the cherry is and how vibrant it is. But having that kind of fruit show in this kind of beer with this super not sweet format just comes off as like almost a different beverage for me. It's got way more to do with beer than a lot of slushies and all that stuff. It is beer through and through. I shouldn't even associate with those other kind of beers. But I liken it more to like a low ABV port or like a low ABV cherry wine kind of thing in the way it drinks, how dry it is, how vibrant and how upfront those cherries are. I really do enjoy it. I really do. I didn't know what to expect on this. I might have had this before, at Bottle Share or whenever I've gone to Hill Farmstead, but I don't remember having it. I really don't. And I was just assuming it was going to come off a little bit different. Not that I should ever assume anything, but, you have these preconceived notions. Wheat beer, ton of cherries. Okay, we'll see. But it ended up being kind of like the beer I needed rather than the beer I expected or wanted. I like this quite a bit. This is something I can definitely sit here and sip on all night long. I'm going to. That's how it's going to work. And I don't know what else to say about it. Classic wheat beer base, a little bit of soft little funkiness, ton of oak, ton of wood on here. That all helps in combination with, the yeast and the hops that are in there, because there's a little bit of bittering going on, help dry this beer out completely, even though it's fully attenuated to begin with. Ends up being just a easy drinker. Just go back for a glass after glass, sip after sip. And like I said, I figured pair this with something, classic red winey stuff, like go a little gamey on it, something along those lines. I think it would just pop, super pop. And I'm not wanting to sit here and talk about food and beer pairings all that much. Not that I don't believe in them, I do. I just don't have the expertise in the culinary world matching with beer and stuff like that. I feel like I can talk about it all that much, but I feel like this is probably one of the better examples of what I would want to pair beer with food. So there you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you enjoyed it. A lot of rambling, but also a lot of different stuff I wasn't expecting. So trying to find the words can be hard sometimes. Hill Farmstead. Their Cherry Flora. Have you had this beer before? What do you think of this beer? Is it one of my favorite cherry-based beers I've had? Yeah, it's Mount Rushmore. Wheat beer is still up there. Very tasty. It's just hard to compartmentalize it because of how unique it is, at least for me. Value availability. I forget what these, they ended up coming on like $12 a bottle or something, I think averaged or whatever. I forget how much it was. Brewery only, but they do ship, so that kind of, a little rule there. And leave you with, if you like what we like to say, like cherries and wheat beers and Hill Farmstead and good beer. I think you'll dig this. Hill Farmstead, if you've been to the brewery, have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? What is your favorite Hill Farmstead beer of all time? All that fun stuff down there. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Flora right now. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.